That didn't happen.
Just to add to that, and because of these actions in the north, we are under sanctions from the European Union.
Yeah.
So how harmful is that for Kosovo to be under sanctions from the European Union?
Well, how harmful is that for the European Union? Anybody that looks at the origins of the conflict in Kosovo, the absolute extreme violence that took place in 1998 and 1999, if you look at the history of that conflict, almost everybody will admit that the warning signs were there from 1986, from 1981, going back even earlier, and that the international community at various different points could have stepped in to prevent this horrific violence from taking place. And that episode in the history of Western diplomacy is now an embarrassment. That people will look at that and say, how did they manage to get it so badly wrong? I think that this is exactly what's going to be said about this phase in Western diplomacy as well. That people in 10 years' time will look back at this and think, how do we have a situation where the European Union sanctioned Kosovo and didn't sanction Serbia for supporting a terrorist organization? That when the Banska attack happens, Vučić declares a day of mourning. The Serbian list, whose deputy leader was one of the attackers, declares 3 days of mourning. Why is the international community not dealing more robustly with that?
Yeah.
How is it that Kosovo is being sanctioned? So if somebody behaves like that, like the European Union is behaving, it doesn't reflect badly on the government of Kosovo. It reflects extremely badly on the priorities of the people in power in the European Union. It's a massive embarrassment. It's a shameful episode for the European Union. And nobody in Kosovo should look at that and think, we must have done something wrong if we're being sanctioned. Because the government of Kosovo, in my view, hasn't done anything wrong.
Professor, former Special Envoy for Kosovo-Serbia Dialogue, Richard Grenell, has made several tweets against our Prime Minister Kurti. He accused Kurti of being an unreliable partner. Why Grenell is so critical towards Kurti?
I think there's a massive personality clash there.
So you think it's a personal issue?
Yeah. I mean,
Why?
Well, look, Richard Grenell issued a series of tweets in, I think it was 2015, saying that Donald Trump was a disgrace. He was unreliable. He was definitely going to lose the primary, and that nobody should vote for him. And then, of course, when Trump becomes president, Grenell changes his mind and thinks Trump is wonderful. This is a man who has no principles. This is somebody who is, again, purely out for his own interests at any given time. Now, when a character like that, when somebody who is devoid of principles, who looks at the world purely from a selfish point of view, what can I get? What can I get? How can I use people? When somebody like that meets somebody who does have principles, of course they're going to hate them, because they see in that other person everything that they lack. And if you're an international diplomat, if you're presenting yourself as an international diplomat, and you're taking to Twitter to engage in vindictive criticisms of a sitting prime minister, again, that suggests there's something wrong with you. You know, you're not a diplomat if you engage in that. This is a man who was effectively thrown out of Germany when he was ambassador to Germany because of his support for pretty much a neo-Nazi party in Germany. Is anybody really going to take what he says seriously about the Prime Minister of Kosovo? Richard Grenell has never been elected to any office in his life. Kurti has now won, his party has won the last 4 general elections in Kosovo. He has a popular mandate. He is somebody who, you know, even people who don't like him, I think, would have to admit that he is not somebody who is corrupt.
Do you see him being involved again on Kosovo-Serbia relations?
As far as I understand it, he's been given some mandate to deal with special missions or something like that. I know he's very close to Vučić, and I know that he's very, very close to Serbian interests more generally, so I would imagine that he would like to become more directly involved, but that can only be a bad thing for Kosovo. And again, does Richard Grenell represent the United States? What would Bill Clinton think about Richard Grenell? What would William Walker think about Richard Grenell? The United States that intervened in 1999 compared to Richard Grenell, it's a different, it's just so different that you have to think, right, well, he doesn't really represent what is good about the United States. He represents everything that's actually bad